Hi, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancer, and thank you for joining me for part 4 of the Employee Manager, where we're going to be covering a show all attachments, a filter by employee name, employee number, and we're going to be covering a lot more on advanced filters. So I'm really excited to show you this. It's going to be a great training. Let's get started. All right, welcome back. We've got a lot to cover in this part 4 of the Employee Manager, so let's get started. In the last training, we covered attachments, but we've got some more to cover. We need to cover deleting attachments and, of course, refreshing them so that the list gets refreshed. So we're going to go over that. There's a few suggestions that we had, so I wanted to go over those and see where we are on some of the suggestions. I do love all of the comments, suggestions, and questions that people ask me on this Employee Manager, because I really want this to be a community building of the application, and I want to see it throughout. So all I ask of you is that you continue to watch them, continue to share these. I really want to complete this application. Often when I do multi-parts, the interest tends to wear off after the first couple of episodes, and people get a little bit bored. And so what I really want to do is maintain the interest. Now I'm going to keep training you on different aspects, so we're going to teach you different things every single time. So you're going to learn great features on Excel and how we build the application, but I would love to create a fully complete employee manager that includes time clock, that includes payroll and reporting, as well as an events manager. So please keep your shares, your likes, and your comments. It really helps and motivates us to keep going on this project, even though it's going to take some time. There's a lot of features. We've taken on a huge task, but I want to see that through all the way, and I hope you do too. So let's continue. In the past few weeks, I've had some great suggestions. I wanted to go over those. Luis Cadete, of course, always has some great comments and questions, and he wants to have comments and notes linked to the time clock. Absolutely, we're going to include that. In fact, I'm considering adding one more tab. If we add one more tab here, I think we're going to put events here, maybe next week. And what that'll do is it's going to add another column, and then we can do things like when we have the time clock, we can have a notes on here. I think we could use one more tab. That means we're going to have to go back and rework a few things, but I think it'll be worth it to have events. And events is a very open type of feature where we could add any type of event. That's hiring, firing, promotion, or pretty much any type of event. So I think that's really important. I'm going to cover that. We got to clean up a lot of stuff. We've had a lot of ideas, so we're going to go through that this week, and then next week we'll probably start on the events. So continuing on with some of those ideas, Kenneth Livkari, sorry, I know I messed up the name there. Is it possible to include employee tasks in a team? We could add tasks. In fact, we can create events on that. I'm not sure about the team aspect. That could get very complicated. So we try to also keep it as simple as possible, as well as creating as many features, because it does get pretty specific here. But of course, when we do complete this application, you are welcome to customize it exactly to fit your specific needs, and hopefully I can give you enough training and enough confidence to do it on your own. And that's what I really like to do, so you can see how I go about handling these challenges and how we go about overcoming them, so that you can have the confidence to take on and customize this yourself. So we're going to do that as I just don't want to create an application for you. I want to teach you how to do this yourself. So that is the focus of this, and to show that you can as well create and customize these applications to fit your exact needs. But we will build out this employee schedule. We will have the ability to make changes, so I do like that. William Morrison also said we need some reporting. Yeah, we're going to have a full reporting on this, especially when it comes to time clock and payroll. We do need a full reporting, so that'll be an aspect. That'll go towards the end. Reporting basically reports on all the data that we've received and have in the application. So reporting is going to come last because it's based on the data. So first we want to make sure that we have and enter all of the actual data in the field. So that's going to come in time clock and payroll. So we need to do that first. But yes, reporting will be a part of that. Okie do. I think that'll be great if we had a button to edit, save, and you could tell me how to transfer and control data. Okay, yeah, we have editing and saving already on the employees, and transferring the data to the other tab, we have that on data mapping, and maybe go over that again. Govind says, please, attendance and print employee data option. Printing employee data is nice, and I think that we can do that in reports. I'll go over, we're going to have a complete reports screen where we can do multiple reports, and we can also have the ability to print specific employee data. However, we could also add a print onto this. We could theoretically add a print onto this, and then what it would do is just expand or unhide all the rows, and it could show all the information. We could do that as well. So let me know in your suggestions if you want more of a formal report, or you just want to print and you want to see everything here and all the way down. Let me know. We could do both of those. So keep that in mind. We can, or maybe both. So that's another way. Let me continue on in our suggestions here. Marlon said, can we add a full-time equivalent status for full-time employee? We do have different employee statuses, so you have the ability to add different employee status, whether it's hired or fired or promoted or whatever kind of position. So we have employee status. New Safety Training Limited says, I was wondering if it would be possible to add training matrix. Well, that might be a little bit complicated. I have done training matrix in the past. If there's demand to do that, we can add it. Otherwise, of course, you can add that on your own, and I'll give you some guidance as to how you might want to do that, because I have done it in the past as far as training matrix goes, so that is helpful. But let me know if it's something that is a high demand. We can try to add that in. Michael Badano said, I just want to ask whether the file size of the finish will be, the file size should be very small. I don't see this as adding a lot of data. All the pictures and attachments, of course, are separate, so I really don't see it. Right now it's a small file, and even when we add a lot of data, it's still going to be a small database. And in fact, when we do the sharing, we're going to do multiple sharing databases. In other words, the employee table will be one shared database. The attachments will be another one. So we're going to split up the database as far as the sharing, just the core databases, into separate files. So that really, that way, when we need to do an update, we only update the specific data that's been affected. So it can be really helpful in that. And I'll show you how that's done in the future. I think sharing is a really, really important aspect. We covered it, sharing workbooks, in another, but we just did one single database. So we're going to, in the future, we're going to show how to share this. Also, it'd be better to search employee by entering employee ID. Yes, absolutely. We're going to get to that. As tab order, once we complete all the tabs, we will have a tab order. I want to make sure all the fields are set in stone before we set the tab order, so we will do that. That's an important. We want this software to act, we want this application to act like a software, so having a tab order is critical. Don't allow duplicate employees. I like that feature. That's really good. With the same first name, last name, we will add that in at some point, because I think that's very important. Nani said, I would like to ask if it's possible to include a QR code. We can add that in reports. QR code in reports, so that if you print something out, you can easily scan it in. I think that's what you mean. You may also mean that you want to add employees. We could do that. I guess you could add a, we're going to add employee ID. What we're doing, let me show you the sample that I worked on so that you can see that. What I'm going to do is I've got an employee ID. This is the sample. And we're going to add employees. So I guess we could add a barcode here. It's just a barcode based on this number. And then you could scan that in, and it would enter the ID here. That's another way. So it's kind of an interesting idea. I do like that. Let's get back to the one that we're focused on here before I do the wrong one. All right, so it's a good idea. Thank you, Nani, for that. John Shields said, I would like to see a training log attached. Training log is a great idea. Now it can go in the events. Events can handle a training log just as it can handle any other type of event. If an employee's gone through a training, I know I'm moving fast today just on these because we've got a lot to cover and we're 10 minutes into it. And I want to get you to the training, but I wanted to show you these ideas. So training log, yes, we can handle that in events. The training matrix, that's the second person asked for the matrix, and a few of you asked it. It is something that we can add on maybe towards the end. Benjamin said, looking forward to see a product be able to browse the list of attached files. Yes, if it exceeds the lines. Yes, that's absolutely. In fact, we're going to do that today. Hopefully, we're going to get to it. Basically, we have a limit of just about 6 attachments. Of course, an employee could have 20, 30, or 50 attachments. So what I want to do is I want to add a filter. I want to add a show all button. And basically what that's going to do is go to this screen. We're going to put in a filter here to filter by the employee ID, and it's going to show only those attachments for the specified employee. We're going to do that today. So we want to get right to that. So thank you for your suggestions. Thank you for your comments. Please keep them coming in. They're really great. So I do appreciate that, and look forward to accommodating as many as I can in this application. All right, let's get to it. Back into the application we go. We've got some additional features to add into the file attachments. In fact, we only went over a few of them. And let's go over into the VBA and show you what we went over last time into the attachments. Let's go ahead and close up one workbook. For now, I'm just going to hide that. That's the sample that I was working on. We're going to continue on with our focus, and the attachments are the employee attachments. Now, we went over last time, I believe, adding the attachment, and that was the only one that we went over. And basically what that does, to refresh your memory, is simply when we click on Add Attachments, we have the ability to add a picture or any type of a file just by clicking OK, and that adds it and adds. But there's a thumbnail here. We did not go over the macro that adds this thumbnail. So let's go over that. Some of you may be familiar with it in the other videos. Otherwise, we'll go over it again. And so what that does is at the end of add attachments runs a macro called here attach display thumbnail. And what that does is it runs this macro right here, attach display thumbnail. Let's go over that macro, and for those of you who always talk to me about not including these on the same, let me help you. As long dim attention table. Okay, now we've got it in separate lines. I know some of you get on me for putting those in the same lines. This is the right way to do it, separate lines, but I get lazy sometime. Okay, so the first one, in reality, the first one is the string, and these are variants. It seems to work just fine, but keep in mind, to do this properly is to do it in separate lines. When you do your code, do it in separate lines. Although I have so many variables, sometimes it just goes on forever. All right, with sheet one, we're going to focus on with sheet one. That's the employee manager. So we're going to do that. The first thing we want to do is we want to delete any other thumbnail picture that might be displayed. But in case there is no thumbnail, I want to wrap that in on air, resume next, and on air go to 0. This will catch it. If for some reason there is no shape, we could find another way to test it. We could also test if it exists. But this simply says, okay, if it doesn't exist, don't stop, don't bug out. So that covers that. It'll delete it. We want to create a new thumbnail picture if it's a file, so we definitely want to delete any old ones, so that's important. If B7 equals empty, B7, then exit. What is B7? B7 is the attachment row. We need to have an attachment row, so that's critical. If there's no attachment row, for example, we've selected a row here, we've got to have attachment row. When we select this, it puts the attachment row 19, and we need that attachment row because we need to know what attachment, we need to know the file name. The file path is here, so we need to know that. We need to know that file path in order to display it, so we must know the row. The row is 19 in this case. The row appears on selection change. When we select, let's go into developers so I can show you how that row appears in B7. Into the employee manager, here it is, the employee manager, on selection change. When we make a selection change, we want something to happen. If we're going to make a selection between E19 and I24, E19 and I24. If we make a selection, again, it's here it is, E19 all the way over to I24. If a user makes a selection anywhere in this range, we want to do something. Okay, so what is it that we want to do? In B7, we want to put the target row. You just saw that it was 19. We also then want to run automatically. We want to run the display thumbnail. We want to run this macro here. This is the one we're focused on right now. So we can display the thumbnail, but first we need to make sure that J and the target row does not equal empty. Why do we need that? We need to make sure that we have an actual, this is our database row, 7. We went over this last term. 7 is the database row. If you look here, 7 is the row in the attachments where all the information is here. So that'll help us determine certain fields. We want to make sure that it actually exists in this main database file for attachments before we go ahead and display the thumbnail here. So we want to make sure there's a value in J. If there is, then we can run this macro. And you see, no matter where I place this picture, it's going to always appear back in the right spot because our thumbnail positions it and sizes it in our macro automatically. So that's kind of a really helpful, so users can't have a problem. Even if I delete this and then I go back and select it again, it's going to pull it up right again. So it always pulls it up. It's really helpful and handy. So let's go ahead and go back into the attached display now that you know how B7 gets the target row value. And if not, if the user selects outside of this range, we're going to clear B7. Why do we do that? Because I don't want this row highlighted. If user selects outside, I don't want this row highlighted. So when we select it, this conditional formatting is based on this row. If we select outside, it hides. So it's kind of a nice way to, you could keep this in there. In other words, it's okay. It's okay if you want to keep this row in there, you want to always show it, you could do that. We would just comment this out, right? And then it would it's more of a preference type of thing. So when we comment that out, now no matter where we select, then it stays highlighted, and that's something you may want to keep in. So it's kind of a preference. I've given you both options, so it's really up to you and how you want your application to perform and how your application looks. Okay, let's go back into the display attachments macro. We are here. Now we know why B7 must not be empty, because that is the row, and the attachment row is going to be B7. B7 is we're going to set that as an attachment row as a whole number, as we define it as long here. The file type. Now I need the file type. That's going to be helpful because I only want to display pictures. So I need to know what type of a file it is. If it's PNG, if it's GIF, JPG, then we can display those. So we need to file type. And I also want them all in lowercase, just in case the file types are in mixed or uppercase. I'm going to bring them all to lowercase, and we can do that through L case. L case, that stands for lowercase, and what that's going to do is any value that's in F in the attachments row, F in the attachments row. What is F? F is here, right here. So this is our file type. So we just want to determine that, because if it's an Excel file, or for example, let's say we add an Excel file or anything else. So if we add an Excel file here, let's fix that bug there. Copy. Okay, we can't copy. We cannot copy this because this is the file I'm using. Okay, that was probably not a good choice by me. Let's go ahead and add another one. Not that one. Not the file that we're on. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. We cannot copy over. It's good. We cannot copy a document that's currently open. So let's just go ahead and add anything else. Let's add a PDF here. PDF. We could actually throw a thumbnail, but we could get to that. So PDF we don't want to show. We may want to show an icon here in the future, but I need to know what type of file. I need to know what type of file it is before we display it. We only want to display pictures, but this is a PDF. So it's important we know the type. In fact, if it's a PDF, we could show a little PDF icon here, or we could actually, if you saw my file manager, we could actually show the actual PDF here in a small form. We may get to that if it's something that you want interested in. I could probably do that using an object. In our file manager, we actually displayed the entire PDF when we selected it. So it's certainly possible. Let me know if that's something important to you. We can focus on that. So we need to know the type, and we bring them all down to lowercase here. Let's go ahead and back into that. Right here, lowercase. So we're going to bring that to lowercase. Now the attachment table row, we also need to know that, and that is J. Remember I showed you that, J. And the attachments row. Column J is where our database row is located in our attachments row. So our table row. So that's important. Also, we're going to check if the file type is JPG, or the file type is PNG, or GIF, or JPEG, or BMP, then we want to display the thumbnail. So in that case, we're going to do all of this. Otherwise, we're just going to not do anything else. So in that case, we want to display it. First, we need the file path, and that's going to be G in the attachments row, so that's important. So we're going to say now we have the file path. Remember, the file path is the full file path. It's here. It's that full file path right here. Okay, so we need that. So we need that to pull up the picture, because we're going to pull it up based on the location. So we're going to insert a picture based on that file path. We have it now. And we're going to give it a name. We want to name it right away. Once we name it, we can work with it. We can display it, we can position it, we can size it. So we want to make sure. And the reason we name it is because we want all of our thumbnails to have the same name, because we want to only show one at the same time. If we're going to give them different names, it's going to get confusing. We may not be able to delete them properly. Next up, I need to know, is it going to be a horizontal picture or a vertical picture? For example, this is a horizontally, and if it's horizontal, I want to limit the width. If it's a vertical picture, I want to limit the height. Right? I want to limit, so either I'm going to limit the height if the height's longer, or I'm going to limit the width. So I need to know what is longer, what is bigger, the height or the width. So that one line of code helps us do that. It's going to say if the width is greater than the height, if the width is, then set the width to 80. 80 is the maximum. If we were to set this to 180, right, it would be way too big. So let's just show you what that would look like, right? on horizontal. You see, if it's a horizontal, it would be way too big, right? So we're setting it to 80 because that's the limit. So you get an idea to see what that would look like. So we've got it set to 80, and that keeps it within our range. Otherwise, the height equals 80, right? So that means else the height equals 80. Again, if we were to do the height, right, as 180, of course, you'll see it a much larger picture, but only on those that have a height of greater. So that would be too much. So that gives you an idea of the sizing, of why we set the sizing. And of course, in your application, you'll size it accordingly to how you want and how it works best in yours. So in this case, they're both 80. So that's fine. So we've set the size, and now we can focus on the positioning. The first thing we want to do is with the shape thumb, because we've named it now. Now we can focus on that. We're going to make it visible. That's the first thing. You can MSO true. And we want to lock the aspect ratio. That's important because we don't want the aspect to be changed, so that's important. We're going to set the left to, you're going to use J19 to anchor. J19, that cell is going to be the anchor of our picture, and that's the top left cell. Now it's not going to be right in that cell. It's not going to be right in J19. It's going to be a little bit lower and a little bit to the right, but that gives you an idea. That's the anchor. And then we can use increment to move that. So we're going to set the top and the left on that anchor, J19, that cell. And then we're going to slightly move it over to the right. If we wanted to move it over to the left, we'd use a -5. Okay. We're going to slightly move it down too. If we wanted to move it up, we'd use a -2. So that's it. That's how we position that picture, and that's how we display it. So that's great. We've got that covered. Now, attachment refresh. This is important because what I want to do is I want to run all the attachments. For example, when I select an employee, I want to clear out all of the attachments, and I want to display only the attachments for this particular employee. So if we select a different employee and they don't have any attachments, we need to make sure that we have no attachments. We need to clear that out, and we need to display all the, and if you see this picture, that should not be showing up. That means on employee load, we need to clear this picture. We need to delete this picture on employee load. Let's do that now, and we're going to wrap that on an if error because we don't want to keep that picture displayed. So let's do that right now, and so you can see how I do that. We have the employee tabs, right, and employee miscellaneous. Here we have employee load. So here is what loads our employee. So let's go ahead and add in at the bottom. We can say on air resume next. That's just the reason we're going to do that is because they're if no employee picture, and then we're going to say dot shapes, and I believe it's called thumb pick dot delete, and then we're going to say on air go 0, on air go to 0. So that just cancels the error. So now when we load employee, now we're going to delete any picture that might show up. So we can double click that, and you see the picture is now gone. And that's what we want. We don't want a thumbnail picture to show up when we load an employee. Even if that employee has some attachments, we still want to only show that thumbnail picture when we select a line. Now these numbers are not pretty here, but we can get they're useful, but we can easily get rid of them. I'm going to keep them here, but for your purposes, when you launch your application, you change that font color to the same as the background color. Okay, so you can get those numbers to disappear. Right, so you'll want to do that. That's important. It's actually this light blue right here. So changing those numbers to the same as the background color and the font color will hide those numbers. So we really don't want to see them as far as the user. So that's what you'll do. For now, our purposes, I do want you to see those numbers. They're important. I don't want to hide them from you. So we're going to keep them there. All right. So now we've got that. So now we know we've got the picture deleted when we add a new. That's an important part. When we add a refresh employee, we want that picture to disappear. And it does. It's working fine. So now we can move back into the employee attachments, and we were focused on the attachment refresh. And basically what I want to do in this macro is I want to take this employee ID and I want to run, and this one doesn't have any, I want to put it right here in our advanced filter. Then if there's any attachments, I want them to show up here. Let's select employee that has attachments so we can go over that. And I think our first employee does, so we can go here and select that employee. Not that one, this one here. All right, so we've got attachments. So here's what it looks like when there is attachments. So we've got our criteria for our advanced filter here. It puts in the ID and it returns all of the attachments. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the last 6 of them, no more than 6 because that's the limit, and put them over right here. And so we'll go over that right now. If we did go over the last time, then sorry for that. We'll go refresh it. We'll do it real quickly. Employee ID as long. Here we got 5 also along in the same row. That's a no-no, but saving space here. Employee ID attachment row, last attachment row, all as long. Okay, and this is good if the application calculation stop calculation. We just use it. I'm going to get rid of that, but eventually we may add that in when we reset. If it's slow, we're going to stop the calculation, stop and reset. But right now I'm going to remove that. But in the future, we will need to make this faster, and we can easily do it with stopping the automatic calculation and stopping screen updating. It's something we'll add into the future, because right now it's loading a little bit slow, but it can be super fast when we add that in. I'm talking fast today. Sorry, I got so much to cover. I want to give you all these features, and I'm so excited to give you all these features. And I know I'm talking super fast. I need to slow down. Okay, employee ID equals sheet 1, J2 value. We need to get that employee ID, and that's located in J2. J2 is where our employee ID is. We need to put that, and I need to put that right here into our criteria, because I need to filter out all of these based on our employee ID. So we're going to run that filter so that we return only those. So that's what we're going to do. Let's continue on. Sheet 1. So now we've got the employee ID. Now sheet 1, we're going to clear any old attachments, E19 through I-24. We need to clear them out. That just is going to remove any attachments that might exist in this range. And we also want to make sure to include J, column J. We want to clear that row too. So that's important. So E19 all the way over to J24, clearing that out. J. This really needs to be J. Okay, moving along. Attachment row 19, we're going to set the attachment row to the first one, because what we're going to do is we're going to run a for next loop, and we need to set that. We need to set the first one. This is the first row where our first attachment is going to go, so we need to set that at 19. And we're going to continue all the way to 24 if there is enough attachments. And then we're going to stop there even if there are more, because we don't have any more space on this particular application. Next up, we want to clear the advanced filters. Any previous advanced filters that were set, we need to clear those. And what that means is in our attachments, I need to clear anything here, any criteria, and I need to clear any old results. So we want to clear the criteria and clear the results. So that's really important. Next up, once we've cleared that out, we can go ahead and set our employee ID into AA2. That is the criteria I just showed you our employee is going to do there. And next up, I need to, when we're going to run our advanced filter, I need to know exactly all the last row. We have to run it based on our original data. So I need to know the last row of data. In other words, I need to know what this is. I need to know the last row of data in our original data. In this case, it's 8, but it's going to go on a lot more. So we need to get that last row. And we can use that using column D, which always has a value, and then XL up. So we're going to use that to get our last row. The last attachments row equals dot range D999 end XL up. That's going to give us our last row. And just in case there are no attachments, we want to exit. We don't want to run an advanced filter if our last attachments row is less than 4. That would mean there's no attachments, so we would not need to continue this if there is no attachments. In that case, we're going to go to no data, and that's going to skip all of this and go right to here and then just exit the sub. We could just as say then exit. We could say exit sub as well, but we may want to add some stuff down here in the future. So there's a few ways to do that. All right, now we are ready to run our advanced filter. So let's get to that. D3, we're going to include the header rows. Those header rows are very important in our advanced filter. We want to make sure we start here. We also want to make sure anytime we run advanced filters, we must make sure that these header values are exactly the same as these. All right, moving back into the code, back into our advanced filter, that's why we must have the headers starting at D3 through K in the last row. We're going to advance filter, and we're going to copy that over. We want to copy that over to a new range, but we want to use the criteria AA1 through AH2. That's the criteria. Learning advanced filters is critical. AA1 must include the headers all the way to AH and 2. I think that's our full criteria right there. And of course, our results are going to be in AA3 over to AG3. In fact, the order of these specific columns is based on the order of our columns here, so that way we can easily copy it over. They can be in any order, but the headers must be accurate and must be the same. So we want to make sure that the headers are always included in our advanced filters. So back into the code now, we'll see that we're going to copy it over to AA3 through AG3, and the unique equals true. We want to make sure that we do want unique values. All right, we do have to check to make sure if there's a last filter row to make sure there is data. So we're going to get the last filter using AA. These are the results, AA column, and they're going to get the last row. We want to know because if, for example, our last row is less than 4, we know there's no data in here. We don't need to continue on, so we need the last row in this case, of course. That last row is 6. Right, so this will get us, we're going to say in our next line, if the last filter row is less than 4, then exit the sub. There's no reason to continue on if we don't have any results, any filtered data results. If there is, though, we're going to continue on and we're going to go through a for next loop, but in this case we're going to go in reverse, meaning from the bottom to the top. I want the newest attachment, which generally would be at the bottom, right? Because as the user adds to the table, they're newer. So the results are also going to be the newest one's going to be at the bottom, and the oldest one's going to be at the top. So I generally want to show the newest attachments in the employee. I want the newest attachment to show up here, and as the older ones, they get older and older at the bottom. So that way, in order to do that, we can go through reverse. We're going to start out at the last row and go up to all the way to 4. In fact, a total of 6. We're not going to go more than 6 values because we only have 6 spaces in the employee manager, but we're going to use that. We're going to go 4 next. We're going to start at the last row, going to 4, and we're going to go in a step -1 because it's in reverse. So let's go ahead and take a look at that for next loop. The last filter, right? Oh, excuse me. For filter row equals the last filter. Remember, we're starting at the end. 2, 4, and step -1. -1 means reverse, so we need to use the reverse for next so that we can put the most recent attachments first. Next up, we're ready to bring our data over, and with this one line of code, we can do it for each line. Sheet 1 E and the attachments row and J and the attachments row equals range AB in the filter row through AG and the filter row value. Let's go over that to see what that does. It's one line of code, and then we're going to do it for each row. So all we're saying is, in this case, E19 through all the way through J19 equals, what does it equal? It equals, in this case, AB6 through AG6. And we're going to do that for each row. So it's like copy and paste, but we're doing it with one single line of code, and it's also faster when we do value to value copying over. So that's how we do it with that line of code, and it goes up for this row, then it goes to this row, and then it goes to this row. That's why Sky is first here in this row. However, in our employee manager, Sky is last because we go in reverse order. So that's helpful to know that why we do that. It's for a reason. Of course, you can do it any which one. And of course, our attachment row starts out at 19, but for each row, we need to increase a row. And of course, if it gets to 25, then we do need to exit the row. Starting out at 19 here, and then of course, we're going to go one more, and one more. And of course, if it gets to 25, right, which is 1 after 24, we need to exit. That's too far. 24 should be the last row. So that's how we limit the number. If it's 25, we're going to exit out. So that's how we keep it all in this one little table here. Now, there may be more attachments. In fact, there may be a lot of attachments. You may have 20 or 30, but I want to be able to see them all, and I want to do that, and I want to be able to run a filter through this table. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's set up a button for that first to show all attachments, so that we can click a button here and then go to the employees and see all those attachments. Into the shapes, into the home menu, we're going to enter a shape for a button using the same theme as we have done. Insert and then shape here. And then we'll just enter the square button. That's the one we've been using for these buttons. In fact, just to be sure, let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go ahead and just duplicate an existing. Control D will get us there. And now we've got it, and now we can just ungroup that. And we can move, let's zoom in. I want to remove that plus, we're not going to use that. And I also want to right click and remove the macro that's associated with this. Let's scroll up so you can see that. Right click, And assign macro, just in case there's any remaining macros, remove that. We're going to add a macro in a moment. And I want to add the details on here. We're going to call it show all attachments. And let's add an icon. We will keep that. I didn't remove the macro on that. You see that? Let's go ahead and right click that. And another way you can tell, you see how on here there's nothing, but when we click over here, that means we did not remove the macro. Right click, assign macro, and delete. Okay, now we have removed the macro on that. Now when we hover over it, we can see it's just a plus, which is what we want. So let's add a little bit of a search icon here, insert, and then picture. And I've got a search icon here handy that's going to be helpful. We can use that right up in here. We'll use this search icon, insert, and then we'll go ahead and size it accordingly. Bring it down to about 0.2 and just add that right over here a little bit bigger. And maybe we'll turn it a little bit. Okay, so now we have the show all. Basically, it's like a little bit of a search feature. And I'll hold the control, click, click, and click. So that's 3. I got all 3, and we'll create a group based on that. And then give it a name, show all attachment group. It's a group or button. You could call it either one. So now we have that. Now we've got that, and we can move it over here. And let's add this one too. Add 2 of them on the right and 2 of them on the left. So we'll add this. That's more common, so we'll put it on the left, and then show all. And then I want to line everything up, so we're going to draw a box around all 4 buttons, and then format, align, middle. Now they're all in the same place. Okay, so now we've got the button. Now let's create the macro that we're going to use. And basically what I want to do is I want to create a filter based on a specific employee ID, and I want to run that. But in order to do that, I think I need some more space here. So let's insert. I want to insert, because I want to create a filter on here. And yes, we do have to change the code now. Okay, so that's important. We do want to change the code. In fact, let's go ahead and insert one row here. This one I'll insert. Okay, that's better. And we'll just copy that format all the way over here like this. Okay, so now we've got the format set, and now we're going to add the filters on that. But before we do that, let's go ahead and change our macros. Don't forget, when we insert a code, we need to make adjustments. Now, right, because we've just inserted this, now our advanced filter on attachment fetch starts at row 4, right? Our headers are in row 4, so we need to make sure these stay the same, but our advanced filters, and I want to do, if the last, this one right here, go to node data 5. Let's change that to 5, because our data is going to start in 5, right? So we want to make sure. So we just adjusted it. Let's just check the macros above, and I think we're okay on these. We're going to add. All right, so by adding it, I think we're okay on that. If we'll make some adjustments later if we see anything. All right, so basically what I did, the reason I did this is because I want to put a little filter in here as well. And I'm going to make these white, and I want the user to be able to enter an employee ID and have it, or enter name and have it filter those. So let's make those white so the user knows they can enter it. And then we're going to say enter ID and enter name. Put a colon there, and I'm going to put a colon here. And now what I want to do is I want to center those, and I want to give them some conditional formatting based on the colon, because I really want it to appear italicized and gray. I want this color. I want to use this color for actual data. So conditional formatting, manage rules, and I'm going to say if it contains a colon. So contains cell specific text, and I'm just going to put a colon. And the reason is I want it to show up differently if the user is going to enter it, right? Just like standard software. So we're going to format that. I'm going to give it an italic, and I'm going to give it a color like of a either light blue or light gray. Let's try light blue because it's consistent with our theme. That's what I want it to look like if the user is going to enter. So, okay, let's apply that. It goes to those two. There we go. That's nice, and we'll give it some borders as well, using our standard border color, border here, and then we'll give it just a solid thin line in the middle. Okay, so now the user knows they can enter an ID. So the idea is if they enter an ID here, I want it to filter here. I want to filter in place. We don't want an advanced filter because advanced filters is good for moving over data, but I want to filter it right in place. So we're going to run an advanced filter to filter in place. If they enter that, if they enter an ID here, or if they enter a name here, I want it to filter based on either name or ID so we can see all their attachments, as they may have a lot of attachments. So we can do that. Let's go into the code and write some code so that we can enter that, and we'll create it. In fact, I've already done that for you in a sample, so let's go over that. All right, but before we do that, I also need to know when I run a filter, I need to know if that filter is running or not, and I'll explain a little bit in a while. So we're going to set the filter load, and then we're going to put this as true or false. Right now we're going to false, and I'll explain how that's going to work in just a little bit. Into the code we go. Let's write some code so that if user makes a change in D3 or E3. So let's take a look inside the code. All right, and here we have the attachments, the sheet. There's no code, so we're going to write some code, and basically we want to know if the user is going to make an actual change, not a selection change, but a change. So if there's going to make a change, so we can remove selection change. If they make a change, we want to run. And what are those? Let's reduce this. What is the range? And basically the range in this case, this is the one I want to reduce, not this here. If they make a change to either D3 or E3, then that is what we want to focus on. So let's write some code. If not intersect target, comma, range D3 through E3, close parentheses twice, is nothing, and, right, I want to make sure range B3 is false. We want to make sure there's no false. Then, right, then do something, then run our macro. And what is that macro? We'll call it attach filter. Okay, so we're going to attach the filter when that's running. And the reason B3 is there's two instances where there's going to be an instances. In fact, let's put a clear button. Let's see. Let's just call it filter by. And there's going to be two instances. One, we're going to put in these default names, either enter ID or enter name. When the application or the macro puts those in, I don't want the filter to run. So we're going to set this to true, right? We only want this filter to run when the user makes a change, not when the macro makes a change. The macro is going to make a change because once we clear it out, it's going to put this default enter name back into it, or it's going to put this default enter ID. I don't want the filter to run when it does that. So we need to differentiate between the macro entering these values or the user entering a value for searching. So filter by, we'll merge and center that, and let's add a button onto this so that we can clear those macros. Entering the shapes, we'll just use the square shape, and we'll just give it, we don't have a lot of space, so we'll just call it clear. All right, and we will set that shape filter. We can use that, we'll use the light blue here. And actually I'll use this, and then we'll use a fill for light blue. And then we'll change the font to text fill to black. That's going to help us. Okay. And we'll change it to black. And then what we do, we need to give it some parentheses, and where we get the button's going to show up better in a second. We just need to remove the spacing around it, so we can do that. We got a text field. We got too much spacing on the left and right. In fact, let's remove it all. We don't need any of it. And then we want to right justify it. Okay, actually we could use just a little bit. In other words, it's a little bit too far over, so we can use like 0.03 on the text. On the right side, that'll be the only one we want in there. We can do right 0.02. That'll just give it right off the edge there, so that's better. And we'll put a border around here so we get a nice look. This is going to be a really nice filter so that users can filter attachments very, very easily. We can give it an icon to insert picture because we're clearing the filter. That's the job of this. You're going to use these two icons here. All right, what I want to do is bring these down. Let's shrink these to 0.24 around there. Give it a break. All right, and it's small. Let's zoom in there so we can set it. We need to increase the width of this button a little bit. This thing's too big here, and we'll bring that in just so user gets an idea of what we're looking at here, so we know to clear the filter. Basically what I want to do is I want to duplicate something. You see here we have clear, and here on sort and filter, let's click a cell so we can see that. I just want to kind of duplicate something that looks like this clear filter, even though it's shaded out now since there's no filter. That's all I want to do. And I'm going to bring this X to the top, click away from it, move this, bring it to the top so that X is clear, bring to the front. Okay, now we can move it back, and now we can group it up. Now we've got our icon, and it's clear what we're trying to do. And let's give this a color. Okay, so we've got it, and we can group this. Draw. We can hold the control down, selecting. Let's draw a box around it. It's a little bit quicker. And then we're going to group everything. So now we have. Let's call this clear filter button. We always want to name our buttons. All right, so now we're ready. We're going to create a macro, and what that's going to do is going to clear any filters, and it's going to set the default name back to enter ID and enter name, because that's what I want to do. So when the user enters this, so we're going to let's go over those macros already. I've created them already, so we can take a look inside and see what those are and how they work. So back into the code, and let's close this up so we can see the attachments. Here we have already, if we continue down into our employee attachments module, we'll see additional employee attachments. We're going to see additional beyond what we have here. We have here addition, something called show all, and we have attachment filter, and we have clear filter. So we've got all three, and we'll go over those right now. And the idea is in show all, what I want to do is I want to assign this macro to that button on the employee range, and in that case I want to take D3 to equal J12. What is that? Let's just take a look at that. What I want to do is, if you're in this screen here, let's zoom out a little bit. If you're in this screen here, we have show all attachments. In that case, what I want to do is I want to take this value and I want to put it right here, and then I want to filter out those names. That's what I want to do. So, and then once it's automatically entered there, that macro is going to run automatically to filter these out. So let's assign that macro. Right click on the group there, and we'll click assign macro. And we want to make sure we have this workbook only, because we have a few that are open. And attach show all. Attach show all. That's the one we're going to be using. So we're going to assign that macro because I've already created it. Right click on this one. We've already created a clear macro, so let's assign that as well. Assign the macro and attach clear, attach filter clear. So let's go over those macros so we can see just how there's just three macros to run. The show all that does is take D3, which is the filter, and puts in the employee ID. That's all that does. Because as soon as that employee ID is run, this automatically will run. Remember, when there's any change to D3, automatically this attachment filter macro is going to run automatically. Let's look at that macro and see how that works. That's called the attach filter. We're going to dimension the last row. We need to know the last row of all of our attachments. And we're focused pretty much on sheet 3. So we're going to use with sheet 3 on this, and we're going to focus on that. We're going to clear any criteria. These are the same. We're going to use the same criteria. We're going to use the same exact criteria. Zoom out a little bit right here. So we need to clear this AA2. We need to clear any previous criteria so that we can enter that employee ID right here. We're going to use the advanced filter here, and we're going to use it. We're going to put whatever's here, we're going to put it right here. Run our advanced filter, but we will not use this, right? We'll not use this. This is for advanced filters. We can run that advanced filter in place, so we can filter right here. So that's what we're going to do on this. Let's go over. So if AA2, clear the contents, clearing the old criteria. If D3 does not equal enter ID, we want to make sure it doesn't equal that. That is our default. So we don't want to filter if it includes that. And we want to make sure D3 has a value. So if D3 does not equal empty, so though both of those conditions exist, then and only then do we want to make AA2, A is our criteria, equal D3. That's what I just said. Otherwise, AA2 is clear. We want to clear out any filters that might be in there. We're going to do the same thing for employee name, exactly the same. In E3, that's where we're going to put our employee name filter. If E3 enter name and E3 does not equal empty, if it does not equal enter name, remember we need those colons, and it's not empty, then AB is the employee name filter, equals, in this case I'm wrapping the stars around it, which means that we're going to be able to filter any text before or any text after, so we can use partial matches, which is going to be helpful when attaching it. You can remove these or add them as you see fit, but I've decided to include partial, and that means putting that asterisk or the star before and the asterisk after. So when we filter by employee name, that'll work. Otherwise, AB clear. So AB is where our employee name filter will go. AB is here, right? AB2. This is where the employee name, if we're going to use employee name to filter by, we can do that as well. Okay, so now that we have our macro, now we're ready to run our filter. So let's do that. We're going to get the last attachment row. We need to know the last attachments row. And of course, we need to check if it's less than 5, then go to no data. If it's less than 5, go to no data. We need to include the headers. D4 is our header when we run our advanced filter. K is our last column in the last attachment row. Advanced filter, filter in place, right? Not copy, filter in place. We want to filter in place. And the criteria is AA1 through AH2. So we got that criteria. Now we're ready to run our filter. So now if we enter an employee ID, it's going to work. Okay, we just have to update the variable here. So we didn't finish this. And B3, right? This must equal false, right? We're going to show you that in a minute. So then attach the filter, all right? So let's take a look now, entering an employee ID back into the attachments. Now let's go ahead and enter 1001. All right, so now we see it filters automatically based on the employee ID, and you'll see it automatically changes to the standard font. And now if we clear that filter, I haven't shown you this macro yet, everything reverts back to normal. And we can do the same thing with employee names. Type in a partial name here, and we'll see it also works on partial names. Clearing it adds it. Now let's go into that clear macro and take a look and see how that works. So moving back into the attachments here, we have attach filter clear with sheet 3. Okay, on air resume next. The reason we have this, show all data, this is going to clear our filter, but if there's no filter set, if there's no filter, it would provide an error. It doesn't. Well, let me show you. Let me create the error. Okay, so our first one, it won't work. It'll work just fine. So let's create that filter. So now we have a filter active. Now we clear it, no error, right? But if we try to click it again, there's no filter set. If we click it again, it's going to create an error. Says method show all data object because there is no filter set. So that's why we wrap it. We wrap it in this on air, because that way it won't, in case we clear it again, it won't create an issue. So that's why we do it. So continuing on, B3 value, we're going to set this to true. Why? Why are we setting true? Because we're making a change to D3 and E3. We're setting these defaults. I'm making a change to these, but the reason is I set B3 to true is because when we make a change to D3 or E3, when we make those change, I don't want this macro to run, right? If there's a change to D3 and E3, run this macro, right? But not so fast. B3 must also equal false, right? So if B3 is true, this is not going to run. I don't want attach filter to run only if it's false, right? So if we make B3 true temporarily, that won't run. I don't want that filter to run. I don't want it to run when we put in the default values. I only want it to run when the user makes it. So this way we can differentiate between when a user makes a change and when a macro makes a change setting the default values for those fields. So that's a very important distinction, and we use that type of methodology a lot in these applications. So we set those default names in both D3 and E3, then we set B3 back to false, then we can set it back to false. So that's how when we do clear filter, it doesn't. So let's put in a filter. That way this type of change actually runs the macro, but this type of change doesn't run the macro. So that's how we do it. It's amazing. And now let's go back into the employee manager and let's go click show all, and you see automatically it clears the filter. So if we select, let's see, 1063 Agent Giuliano, let's go ahead and Now, if we run a different filter, let's go ahead and look at Agent Giordano. Now we see if we want to click Show All, now it's going to show everything by that employee. And in fact, if you've got a lot, it automatically filters based on that number. We could do just the same. The reason I use employee ID and not name is because employee names can change. So if we added an attachment under this and we change the employee name, I want all the employees with this ID to change. If we do make a slight change in the name, then they wouldn't show up. So that's why we always use employee ID. Employee IDs don't change. So that's why I don't use filter by name, just in case we made a change to the name. Let's say 6 months, you find out that they have a middle name and your middle initial and you want to add it to this. The employee ID won't change, so you'll always get the attachments even if a name changes. All right, that's great. We covered attachments. We covered the finishing of that. We have a lot more to cover. In fact, next time we're going to probably add employee. We're going to add payroll as far as the payroll range, how to create a payroll range, and we're going to cover events. So we look forward to bringing that to you. Thank you very much for joining us in this Employee Manager Part 4. Please don't forget to share and like and share with all your friends and download a version so you can play with it yourself. Thanks so much. I do appreciate all of your suggestions and comments.